Guys, right away, we're going to get into what's most relevant, which is the NHL playoffs. They started 2 days ago. Tradon is going to get right into it right now.
Right now, let's do it. We're gonna go through all the divisions. We're gonna do kind of a rapid fire. I ask all the guys to pick a few teams that they're gonna kind of represent in the breakdowns for the playoffs here.
Fucking Boston, God damn it!
To start each division, though, I want to go through all of. I want to tell everyone obviously where the rankings were, and then how we fared. Like in our preseason predictions, all those weeks ago, which was like around week 30 or something. So I'll get into that. We're going to start with the Mass Mutual East. The Mass Mutual East is Pittsburgh was the first seed team, and they're taking on the New York Islanders, who were the fourth seed team. Washington took that second seed team, and they're playing the third seed Boston Bruins. So I expected Boston, in this order, I had Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders making the playoffs. I am right in who got in, but I'm not right in obviously the order. Everyone except one of us expected Boston to get first, and that just never happened. They really had a rough middle of the season, as you guys remember. James had the Caps getting first, and it was close. They almost did. It was pretty damn close. No one was perfect except me in terms of who was in, because you guys had either the Rangers or the Flyers making it. Alex and James had the Flyers making it, and they just disappointed. And Tyler had the Rangers, which, let's be real, if they weren't in the Mass Mutual East, which in my opinion was definitely the most competitive division, they probably would have made the playoffs this season. So I'll give you props for that. Eric, I think you were gone that episode, so sorry I didn't mention. I'm sure if I asked you who you thought would get in, you'd say, "Oh yeah, the guys that got in." So, but yeah, we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna talk about the Pittsburgh New York series. We got the number 1 seed Pittsburgh against the 4th seed New York Islanders. We're gonna keep this brief because we want to get into this. James, you're following Pittsburgh. Why are they gonna win?
Because of Sidney Crosby, dude. Like at 33 years old, that guy is still dominating. I don't know if you guys watched last night's game, but he has great hand-eye coordination. He had this amazing little deflection goal. I put them up for a second there, but they ultimately lost. They're just faster and better at moving the puck than the Islanders are. And they played the Islanders a bunch during the season, obviously, and in years past. And the Islanders play the exact same scheme of defense over and over again. But the amount of times they've seen it, the Penguins should be able to pick it apart.
Are you worried about the Vezina Trophy season that Semyon Varlamov is playing over in New York?
Oh yeah, Tristan Jarry is terrible. Anything above his shoulders, he cannot get. So as long as he figures that out, we'll be okay. But as of right now, the entire Penguins team is good except for him. So I'm really, really afraid of goaltending. That's for sure.
So the Penguins just need to outscore. That's it.
That's essentially, yep.
All right. Eric, sports. You're taking on that defensive juggernaut in the New York Islanders, and this is like you. You love these defensive teams. So why is James wrong? Why is Pittsburgh going to be beaten?
Let me start off by mentioning the team I mention every time we talk about hockey, the LA Kings, when they won their 2 Stanley Cups. Me, Alex, and Tyler said this probably like 10 times, but their defense. The Islanders defense reminds us of the Kings defense. Basically, they'd win those 1-goal games. They win 2-1, 1-0. Boring for the fans, but defense wins games in this league. One thing, what the hell is wrong with Varlamov? He wasn't even on the bench in the first game. Does he have COVID or is he hurt?
That is a great question.
Because Schneider was on the bench, which is extremely sketchy for the Islanders, but I do like their backup Sorokin.
Yeah,
he's done good this year. I think he's a rookie, this Russian kid, I say. But Varlamov wasn't even dressed up. I had him in fantasy, but I just gave up on that because I'm going to boycott Tyler's league forever now.
I mean, I'm not.
That was my whole plan.
So yeah,
I just wanted to get
Varlamov wasn't even dressed up. But one other thing I'll say is well, the goaltending tandem seems to be getting the job done this year. When Varlamov is there, but I guess you could say in that game one, 72 hits and 39 saves. Those two things are going to demonstrate why the defense wins.
Hey, that first game was pretty tight. I mean, New York did take it in overtime after a late comeback in the third period there. Varlamov looks like he just has a lower body injury. He did skate in optional practice today, so it seems like he's close to return, but we'll see. But I have the Penguins taking this series. I just given the fact of what Crosby did this season to will his team to the playoffs and to the first seed in the East, I just can't imagine that that's going to subside. And let's be real, as of late, besides the last game, the Islanders were kind of in a weird trajectory in the wrong direction. So I'm going to side with James on this. Sorry, Eric. I'm going to side with James on this. I have Pittsburgh going in my bracket.
One other thing.
Oh, yeah.
No Malkin right now for the Penguins. Does that change?
He'll be back.
That's
bro.
true. Yeah, he'll be back. I have Pittsburgh in 6, and that
hopefully Varlamov is back too, and then that'll change.
Yeah, I think that if Varlamov comes back, I think that Pittsburgh's just going to have to kick it up in that next gear. But we'll see. They face each other a lot, and I guarantee they're sick of seeing each other. That's for sure. Moving on to the other matchup in the East, we got the 2nd seed Washington Capitals against the 3rd seed Boston Bruins. Alex, why are the Caps going to win this series?
I just think the Capitals have overall better depth. We've talked about how Boston has one really good line, and then, they did get Taylor Hall, and he's played well for them, but then the rest of it is iffy. I don't trust Tuukka Rask. That's just a fact. And I just think the Capitals are bigger and stronger, and it will be a series that the Capitals will just wear them down. Shout out Nick Dowd, former LA King, get that OT goal in game 1. So looks like game 2 is going to OT again. That's pretty dope. Chara, monster. He knows what the Bruins are doing. I just think that the Capitals are just going to have overall depth. I do think it's going to go 7, or I hope it goes 7, because this would be a super fun series.
All right, Tyler. Why do you think your Boston Bruins, or the Boston Bruins, not necessarily your Boston Bruins, are going to beat Washington?
Yeah, I covered the Boston Bruins last playoff run, and I just figured I'd do it again just because, they're kind of my team now, I guess, my secondary team. So, yeah, game 2 just went to overtime, so both games overtime. This is a crazy series. It's going to be – I don't know if you guys have watched or the listeners have been watching this one. This is chippy. This is like –
it is.
These guys are – it seems every stop they're getting each other's face and going at it. There's penalties left and right. So it's going to be a really brutal, physically hard-fought series, as Alex mentioned. But the Boston Bruins have been the hottest team since the trade deadline. I think that Taylor Hall pick was really good for them. Added some depth and added some scoring. I think it fixed a lot of their issues. And the Caps on the goaltending side, I don't know if they're as experienced as they have been in the past. I think that could potentially hurt them in a 7-game series, because I agree. I think this one's going to go all the way to 7. This is a really good, evenly matched matchup here. But I just like the Bruins with the way that they've been playing lately. They're hot at the right time. And I just see them offensively, I think, overwhelming the Capitals defense there in a longer series.
I like that. Look, this series I think is going to be I think it's going to be a damn good series. This is the second game in a row that they've gone to overtime. The game just ended. The regulation time just ended. The Bruins scored 26 goals. Caps pumped in 24, and each average about 30 shots a goal. 30 shots on goal per game. Like these are very evenly matched teams. So you could flip a coin, and I think that it could be anyone. I love the TJ Oshie. I love Ovechkin. And picking up Anthony Mantha was a sneaky good trade deadline pick from the Caps. That being said, Boston did win the trade deadline by taking Taylor Hall. So and he's done very well. Like, and I'm sitting here, I'm the same guy that said that he's one of the most overrated players in the league. So he's definitely found a little bit of a stride, and he's proving his worth. And I think he wants to stay in Boston. And I think that this playoff run is going to mean a lot to him in finding that home in Boston. All that being said, I have the Caps winning. I think this is going to go to 6 or 7, but I do have the Caps winning. So we're going to see another Caps-Pens matchup. But hey, this is going to go the distance, and you guys both made great points.
You think this is the NBA or something? Just another Caps-Pens matchup?
Yeah, pretty much.
What a parody.
Everyone wants to see it.
Yeah, everyone wants to see it.
Will it?
I also tip my hat to the power play on the Caps. The Caps power play is they were at over 1.13 power play goals per game. That is obscene. So, and the Boston side just wasn't quite there. So, but we'll see. But I have the Caps. So does Alex. Tyler, we'll see. It's gonna be tight. But moving on to the Central. The Discover Central division, the standings ended up with Carolina number 1, Florida number 2, Tampa number 3, and Nashville number 4. We all had Tampa number 1 and Dallas number 2. We all had that, and Dallas did not even make the playoffs. They had a really rough start to the season, and then they dealt with the winter storm in February. They just couldn't find a good stride, and Tampa really kind of disappointed in a sense, I guess, in the regular season. I think those injuries, to the start of the season kind of really affected them. So, they just never really, rose to the occasion, in my opinion. Most of us had Carolina as in that 3rd spot, besides Alex, who had them in the 4th spot. And then James had the Predators making it, which they did. Good pick there, bud.
Yeah, I lost $50 too, so that was cool. I mean, go Pride, but I lost money.
Thank you for that again.
Eric, unfortunately, you didn't. You weren't there for this one, but the rest of us had Columbus.
This was MIA.
Had Columbus making the playoffs there.
I did.
So I'll say this. I think the surprising one for everybody was Florida. Like, Florida really did an amazing job, and we'll get to that one. But first, we're going to start with the top seed Carolina Hurricanes taking on the 4th seed Nashville Predators, who in my mind, there's always one team who I think makes the biggest surprise, down the stretch of the season. I thought Nashville was completely out of it prior to the trade deadline, and then they completely came out of nowhere and made the playoffs. They were fighting till the bitter end with Dallas, who was trying to make it. But Tyler, why are the Canes going to beat the Nashville Predators?
I think maybe other than the Vegas Golden Knights, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are the most complete hockey team in the NHL right now. They can do it all. They got great goaltending, they play great defense, and they can score. They're just very well-rounded, and they're really hard to beat. And that's the reason why they got the number 1 seed, and that's the reason why they're one of the best teams in hockey right now. They're playing great. Offensively, Aho is a stud. Not only is he good offensively, but he's just one of those all-around great players. I think he kind of represents that style of play that Carolina loves. It's just, they're good at pretty much everything. They do everything well. And that three-headed netminder tandem, all of them are really solid. And I think we've seen where in the playoffs that having depth in goaltending can really help you out. And there's a lot of teams that have won Stanley Cups with 2 goaltenders kind of, doing a platoon situation. They have 3 really great goaltenders. So they have great depth in net. And also with this particular matchup against the Predators, the Hurricanes during the regular season, and I know a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at the regular season matchups, how it affects the playoffs, but their special teams dominated the Preds this season. Their power play was 10 points higher, and their penalty kill was 5 points higher than their season average. So I think I like this matchup for the Hurricanes. They're up 3-2 right now in the 3rd period. I think that the Preds, I think they're going to be close games, but I just think the Hurricanes are going to overwhelm the Preds and win this in 5 or 6 games.
I like that. James, we found out today that your boy Kittle is a huge Predators fan. Your tight end is a huge Predators fan, and you texted me, you said, I'm a huge Predators fan now. Why are the Predators going to beat the Canes this series?
Okay, I just want to clear something up real fast. Contrary to popular belief, I am a big Preds fan. Like the Preds are probably like the first team I watched in the playoffs ever. Remember a couple years back, I think they're playing the Stanley Cup. Remember?
Penguins.
Yeah, Pecorino was in
Penguins.
Yeah.
Penguins.
I watched a lot of those games. Drank a lot of beer during those games. So at the time, like I watched a lot of hockey and it was a lot of the Preds stuff. So I like the Preds. But Tyler's biggest point was that they're a very complete team. And I think that's to their detriment right now. I think the fact that haven't been tested. They've kind of just been cruising all regular season long. And on the flip side, the Predators have basically been playing playoff hockey for the last 2 months, just trying to climb back in there and do their thing. They're playing at a level that's way higher intensity-wise than the Hurricanes have seen. And the Predators are a perennial playoff team. They've been there time and time again. Carolina, not as much. So all the people who are there, like Philip Forsberg and Ryan Ellis and all those guys, they know how to play playoff hockey. The intensity is triple what it is in the regular season. And I think that's going to help them a lot. On top of that, UC Saros, one of your most important players of last year, he's on a tear right now. The dude's like .927 save percentage. The guy's on fire. He's doing so well. And I think they're going to take that momentum from beating out the Stars for that 4th spot into the series and hopefully put up a good fight. They probably won't win, but I really want them to win.
I love that. Look, I think less than like 9 months ago, I said that UC Saros was the most important player for the Predators, and everyone called me a fucking idiot. The guy just put up a .927 save percentage this season, 21 fucking wins. So fuck you, everybody else.
That was the kids,
mainly,
not us.
Mainly Eric.
That was all
the
the
idiots
kids
on Instagram.
It was all the kids.
Look, I love both teams. I love the stories of both teams. That I love where one team completely dominated their division, and then the other one had a terrible start. And it wasn't. And if it wasn't for UC Saros and the scoring starting to come back, the Predators made the playoffs. And I think that's a huge story in and of itself. I personally, I think that the Hurricanes are going to win this in 5 at the very most. I look at the mix of veterans and kids of, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Smechnikov, Vincent Trocheck, Jacob Slavin. Their head coach, Rob Brindamore, is someone I've talked about on this podcast. He captained the team in 2006 who won the Stanley Cup. And they were a dominant team that came out of nowhere. And he's already brought that. He's already brought some huge. It's an intangible thing that you can't even explain. It's his drive, it's his passion for the game. And it's showing in their play. They're super fast. They're super hungry for the puck. Mrazek has a .92, and to your point, Tyler, Mrazek has a .923 save percentage. Reimer has a .906 save percentage, and Nedeljkovic, I can't even explain.
Yeah, that I tried so hard to learn how to pronounce.
Has a damn .932 save percentage. Like it's going to be very, very tough for Nashville to make it out. I think this is one of the more lopsided ones, although I would love to see, I don't really care who makes it out. I really like both teams, but I have this place in my heart that I really want to see Carolina make the Stanley Cup final playing the Oilers, because the last time those two teams were in the finals, they were together, and I want some retribution from 2006. I was just a wee lad back then.
20,006.
20,006. Yep.
Oh, wow.
The future.
It's the future. So I have the Hurricanes in 5, and I think, James, I think you could admit. I think you admitted that the Hurricanes are probably going to win, but you'd love to see the Predators win. I'm with you there. I don't really care. It's just a tough one it's just going to be a tough one for them. Going on to the other battle in the Central, the Battle of Florida. For the first time in playoff history, the 2nd seed Florida Panthers are taking on the 3rd seed Tampa Bay Lightning, these reigning Stanley Cup champion from last year. Eric, why is Florida going to win this series?
Well, first off, so far this has been the most exciting series. Just pretty much a full barn of fans, big hits, fights, and lots of goals.
Unbelievable.
All that we saw yesterday. One thing though, do you think that first goal should have been called back from Florida?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I was all over the place saying, "Oh, there's no way they can call that back," and And Sam Bennett did make a push against the pad. It's tough, but I saw the angle and it probably should have been called back. It was the right call. It's tough though. It's a tough
they just
break.
didn't blow the whistle, That's what's fucked.
True.
They should have blown the whistle.
True.
But either way, Florida will get it done because of their head coach, Quenneville, who was the coach of the fucking Chicago Blackhawks in their era of dominance. He got 3 cups with them. He's turned around this entire team. They look exciting. They look like a fast-paced, jump-the-gun type of team, kind of like the Blackhawks. Their defense seems pretty solid, except they got caught slipping in the very last minute of the game yesterday and ended up losing. But it's going to be like a battle every game, I feel like. They seem to have way more energy last night. I feel like they outplayed Tampa.
I agree.
Or at least provided more energy on their side of things. But that was just game 1, and it seems to be exciting. It's going to go 7 games, and Florida's going to pull it off.
Love it. Alex, why are the Tampa Bay Lightning, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, going to beat their state peer in the Florida Panthers?
Yeah. At the beginning of the season when we talked about the most complete teams in hockey, this is the team we talked about.
Yep.
You can say whatever you want about Tampa's handling or whatever you want to call it of Nikita Kucherov and this kind of bullshit ticky-tacky rule they've used to stay under the cap space. But he's back. He scored 2 goals last night. It's his first game since game 5 or however many games they won last year. I think it was 5. Stamkos, Vasilevsky. This team is incredibly deep. They have their 2 best forwards back. You just said they got outplayed by Florida and they still won. I just think this team has too much depth, too much experience. And I mean, Kucherov's he had a hip surgery. He's, healthy, a top 5 player in the league. He has been skating for a month and practicing with the team for 2 weeks. He's probably fine. And they just got a completely healthy, completely fresh Nikita Kucherov. Brutal for the Florida Panthers, who had an incredible season. But Tampa is just too good and too deep. I think I have them winning in 6.
Okay.
Also, because I want it to go long.
Yes, we all want this to go long, guys. If last night was indicative of how the series is going to go, it's going to be the best series in the entire first round. Look, this one's tough. I mean, you like you said, Alex, this is the reigning Stanley Cup champion. This is who I've been talking about is the most complete team in the NHL, or at least one of the most complete teams in the NHL. So there's not really much I can say to that other than say more to them other than the Lightning played 56 games and won 36 in 2021. Vasilevsky started 42 of those games and won 31 of them. If he doesn't win the Vezina, there's something wrong. He was absolutely incredible. That being said, Florida had such a wicked run this year. I mean, there was a point halfway through that they hadn't strung 2 losses together. They were following every loss up with a win, which to me is huge. That is indicative of a team that can really handle the pressure and turn it around when, they don't let those losses get them down. They just move on. And that's the sign of an experienced playoff team. And they acquired Sam Bennett from Calgary in the trade deadline. And Sam Bennett had problems up in Calgary. He just couldn't find his stride. But Sam Bennett in the playoffs is one of the best hockey players I've ever seen. It's something that is mystical. Like he's terrible in the regular season, but once he gets to the postseason, he's a different guy. And in fact, he was such a big part of the game last night that he got suspended the next game, which could be fucking huge for them because he was involved in every single scuff, every single goal. It felt like he got his goal taken away. I mean, he's just all over the place. So I think Tampa should be watching out for him. That being said, I do have Tampa winning in 7, but I really want Florida to win.
We didn't even mention Victor Hedman, who's the best defenseman in hockey.
But here's the thing. That kind of comes par for the course, but Victor Hedman did not have, he kind of struggled this season. He didn't have that great of a season relative to his normal. and they're still this good, and they're still winning when they're being outplayed. Like you're absolutely right. They're going to be such a force for Florida. But I really would love Florida to beat Tampa, because it's been so many years that Florida's been the punching bag, the punching bag of Tampa Bay, and it's about time they got there. So we'll see how it goes. So moving on to the Honda West. The Honda West, the Avs ended up first, followed by the Vegas Golden Knights. Minnesota ended up in third, and St. Louis Blues were by far the worst team to make in my opinion, to make the playoffs, and got that fourth spot. We all had the Avs getting first, and we were all right on that. Most of us had Vegas getting that second spot. Alex, you had the Blues getting that second spot. And then all of us had the Blues getting the third.
I was trying to be different, you know.
Alex, you had them getting second, and then all of us except Tyler were wrong on that fourth spot. Tyler, you hit Minnesota, baby. You hit Minnesota, even though they did better than you expected. James, I know that it's just you had the Ducks getting didn't happen. Even funnier, I had San Jose, and they were worse. So
they were worse than the Ducks. No, I think the Ducks.
It was close. It was fucking close. It was a battle for the last spot. And then the King, Alex and Eric, you both put the Kings in there, and they actually made a good push to, in that second, 2/3 part of the season. They just kind of fell short toward down the run, but we're going to get into it. So Colorado, first seed Colorado is taking on the 4th seed St. Louis Blues. James, why are the Avs going to beat the St. Louis Blues?
I think plain and simple, they're one of the best teams in the league. They're a favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, like going into the season all the way through, they haven't really slipped up one time. I think we all agree that whoever took that 4th seed in the Honda West would be trash and not go anywhere anyway. So there you go. The 1st seed's playing the 4th seed. 4th seed's not going to go anywhere. Doesn't matter who it was. It could have been any of those teams you just mentioned. They weren't going to make it past the first round. There's no way. Top of that, Grubauer is having a hell of a year. 922 save percentage. He had 7 shutouts over 40-plus games. And then also, they have scoring all the way around. They have scoring from their forwards and also their defense. Cale Makar has 44 points in 44 games. Sam Girard has 32 points, and Devin Tays has 31. I mean, scoring is everywhere. Their goaltending is good. Very complete team.
Yeah, they are absolutely disgusting. Eric, how are the Blues going to pull this off?
Well, first off, that Bruins game already just ended. But they just showed, because we missed the first 10 minutes of this Blues Avs game. Landeskog dropped the gloves in like the first 2 minutes.
Oh,
so like
the captain.
Your captain's dropping the gloves right away to just hype the team up. That's not a good sign for the Blues. But Blues, fuck the Blues. They're another team though that has the squad, the coach, and the goalie who have all gotten it done only a few years ago. Like James described earlier with the Predators, like these guys know what it's like to ramp up the intensity at the right time. It seems almost like they got nothing to lose. Like they barely got this spot. Now they're like, oh shit, we're in the playoffs. We're against another thing that Alex mentioned, the biggest curse of hockey, the President's Trophy. The Avs were the best team in the season. You always see that end up turning into the worst thing that could happen for you once the playoffs come around.
Why? What makes it the worst thing? Like what happens to the team?
It's a curse.
Present?
It's like a curse. Like it's just
they don't make it out of the first round. Like what's going on?
Yeah, they usually get first rounded or they just don't pull it off. And it's like it's kind of the opposite. That's why the NHL is just so much better than the NBA. You'll never see the first seed team in the NBA. You're not going to see the Nets lose first round to the Hornets. You're not going to see. Hopefully you'll see the Jazz lose first round to somebody, but it's more common in hockey, and it just seems to happen all the time with the President's Trophy winner. It doesn't happen all the time. But this year it might happen to the Avs, and that's why the Blues may win the series.
Just statistically, it's been bad. So, yeah, I think it's very hard for the St. Louis Blues. I'm going to keep this very simple. Whatever James said about all those points, absolutely right. Cale Makar is a Norris Trophy contender. He might even win it this season. Nazem Kadri has been a big part of the depth up front. Their power play is amazing. They have the league's best Corsi, league's best expected goals, so their advanced stats are there. And the Blues barely made the playoffs. So if we're talking about a huge disbursement in skill level, this is so far. Like I have Colorado in 4. I don't know how I don't even know if Blues are going to even get a game, which is a bold statement because
get a goal. You should say that instead. That's even bolder.
Oh, they'll get I'm not going to say that, but they're going to get. They're not even going to win a game. So there's just no way. All right, moving on to the very, very intriguing series between the 2nd seed Vegas Golden Knights and the 3rd seed Minnesota Wild. Alex, why is Vegas going to win this series?
Okay, so first off, I looked it up. Out of the 34 times the President's Trophy has been handed out, 8 times have they won the Cup. 8 out of 34, not a good percentage, and it hasn't happened since 2013.
And 2 years ago, we saw the President's Trophy Tampa Bay Lightning, who had a league like a historic
all time,
got swept by the 8th seed.
So that's what that is for the Vegas Golden Knights. I just said it with Tampa. They're probably the deepest team in hockey, and they definitely have the best 2 goaltending tandem. That's what I wanted to say. The Flower and Robin Lehner are an amazing tandem. Marc-Andre Fleury kept them in that game last night until he literally just couldn't hold it any longer. It was like he was trying to hold a shit in, and eventually that sphincter opened, But why? And the goaltending is my main reason why, even though they did drop game 1, I think Vegas will move on. Those two guys can carry this Vegas Golden Knights team all the way to the Cup final. They have the only worry I have, and we saw this happen last year in the playoffs. Their scoring just stopped. They just stopped scoring, even though I believe they had the best goal differential this year. And then they got shut out game 1 of the playoffs again. So I'm not sure what's happening with Vegas, but they're not the President's Trophy winner, so that should be good news for them. But Carlson, Marchessault, Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Alex Tuck, like these guys, they can score. They have good defense. They're incredibly deep. They should be able to take care of the Minnesota Wild, but this feels like a trap series to me a little bit.
Love it. Tyler, why are the very surprising and fun Minnesota Wild team going to upset the Vegas Golden Knights?
Kirill the Thrill. This kid has absolutely come out of nowhere and just rejuvenized this Wild franchise. I mean, a lot of people, the funny nickname they used to have for the Minnesota Wild was the Minnesota Mild, because they were boring. They really didn't play exciting hockey, kind of like, Islanders style, just defense. But they never had this exciting player that can be a playmaker and make a difference. Kirill Kaprizov is that player for the Minnesota Wild. He just gives this team so much life and so much excitement. That's why his name is Kirill the Thrill. Also, the Minnesota Wild 5-2-1 against the Knights this season. They won game 1. For whatever reason, it seems like the Wild know how to beat the Vegas Golden Knights, which a lot of other teams in the NHL don't know how to do. So as Alex mentioned, this is probably a trap series for the Golden Knights. I think there's going to be a few upsets here in the first round, and I think this is a really good one to watch. I think the Wild have as good a chance of anyone as anyone to take down the Golden Knights.
Yeah. In terms of the thorn in the Vegas Golden Knights ass, it's definitely been Minnesota. They have absolutely had them. They beat them in the series, and they're the only team that Vegas struggled with, and which is very interesting. I do have Vegas going on. I actually have Vegas winning the Stanley Cup. That's my pick for the ultimate winner. However, I think that this one's going to be one of the tougher series. I think their first 2 series are they're insane. Like if they can get through them unscathed, I think they have a good shot. Otherwise, if they go the distance, their team's going to be beat up. Alex, to your point, they need to find out their scoring in the postseason. They have to, or else there's just no way. Because Cam Talbot's been playing pretty damn well, and if Cam Talbot plays even a fraction of how well he's done this season. Vegas is going to struggle. And Kaprizov, to your point, Tyler, has just been absolutely fantastic. I do have Vegas winning, but it's going to be a hard fought battle for that spot. So I see Vegas and Colorado playing each other next series. I think most of us do, except Tyler, which is fair. But I think either way, you're going to get a damn good Western Conference champion, either any way you slice it. Now moving on to the Scotia North, the Canadian division, my division. Toronto took the first spot, with Edmonton taking the second spot. Winnipeg took the third spot, and Montreal barely hung on for that fourth spot. Everyone had either the Habs or the Leafs getting the first two spots, except Eric had Canucks getting the second spot, which we were way wrong. Most of us, except Tyler, had the Canucks making the playoffs, at least third spot, and they just absolutely shat the bed. Tyler, you had the Flames making the playoffs, which was very close. Which was close. None of us had Winnipeg, except Eric had Winnipeg sneaking in, and they were a surprise team. I did not have the Oilers making the playoffs, but James and Tyler did. And the Oilers were right there with Toronto towards the end. It was quite fun to watch on my end. Looking at that first series, we have the first seed Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the fourth seed Montreal Canadiens. Alex, why are the Leafs going to beat the Canadiens this series?
Yeah, unfortunately for the Canadiens, they've just fallen off a cliff. And I think going into the season, our biggest worry with Toronto was goaltending. We really weren't sure what we were going to get out of Freddie Anderson. And then Soup Can Sam himself, Jack Campbell, showed up and just fucking killed it. I think he went like 10-2 or some stupid thing. He has helped this Toronto team turn its goaltending season around, because Freddie Anderson was really the weak spot. Tavares, Matthews, Marner, that's a dirty three right there. I just think the scoring ability of the Toronto Maple Leafs is going to be too much. Carey Price is not the Carey Price of old. You just said it. The Canadiens barely even held on with the Canucks, who had COVID, the Flames, who just shat the bed, and the Senators of all teams. Like, the Habs should have been easily in this. And I just think Toronto has too much scoring. Their defense is also almost underrated, I think. Jakey Muzzin can get after it. Morgan Riley can get after it. I just think Toronto's going to have too much scoring. And honestly, I really just want to see a Toronto-Edmonton series, because either way, it will be fun to watch Tradon either be very excited or cry. And I can't decide which one I want more.
Fair enough. James, you really love this Habs team. They were a roller coaster team, and I've said that like 5 times on my power rankings, I feel like. Why are the Habs going to upset the Leafs?
I think that we're all a victim of recency bias. So the Habs started off strong, and then did really bad, and then did well again, and then were hit with a plethora of injuries that consisted of Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher. Like, Carey Price is their veteran leader on ice and off ice. If he's not on ice, that spells trouble. Then you're like, oh yeah, but Jake Allen was doing well. He was doing well in a backup role. Given the number one netminder role, he did not do well. The dude did awful. He did terrible. And on top of that, like I had mentioned, Brendan Gallagher went down too. He is, I think, the biggest glue guy that the Canadiens have to offer. He's not only does he hold the team together, but he also produces. I mean, as a whole, and I've watched a lot of Canadiens games, they are a completely different team when he is on the ice. And you can't even explain it. I don't even know hockey that well, but I can tell that. So getting Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher back, that's going to help that team be right back to that middle portion when they're hot again. I mean, this last couple of weeks, Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher haven't played for like 3 weeks or a month. It's been a long time since they've been on ice, and it's going to be a different looking team come playoffs when they're back on there. And on top of that, Cole Caulfield, he's that spark plug. He's a prospect. He's young, but he's fast. He's that spark plug that will get this team going. So it's a perfect mix of veterans and young guys to help this team propel forward.
Yeah. Montreal to me is they're just too inconsistent. And I think they just lost their scoring touch down the stretch. Although they have a lot of great talent. And the thing is, Marc Bergevin, the GM there, spent so much money to be to be in a position where this is probably Montreal's easiest way to the Stanley Cup final, because they don't have to play Boston, they don't have to play Pittsburgh, they don't have to, Tampa Bay, they don't have to deal with those teams, but they do. But I just think that they kind of lost it. I personally, as I've said this, I don't trust Carey Price, but I've been wrong in the past about him. The Leafs made great moves in the offseason, in the trade deadline. They got tougher, they got stronger, they got good leadership, they got lots of veterans. I still question their ability to handle adversity, and there's historically a terrible team in the playoffs, especially the first round. So I would not be shocked if Montreal won this division or won this series. But I do believe that Toronto will come out. I think that their demons will be slayed, at least in the first series. And personally, to Alex's point, I really want another chance at Toronto, because we had a series there in the middle of the season that we got completely smashed, and it completely turned our season around for the good or for the better after. So we'll see how that goes. I do have Toronto winning the series, though. Finally, my second seed Edmonton Oilers against the third seed Winnipeg Jets. Tyler, why are the Oilers going to make it out of this series?
Yeah, so your Oilers, I like this team a lot. The way that they've been playing, especially lately. I think they're finally kind of showing their full potential. Of course, we said that before, and I know all too well. Once playoffs comes around, it's just for some reasons things don't seem to go as planned. But I think this one's going to be a little different. Mike Smith is having a stellar season. I think that's one player that a lot of people aren't talking about on the Oilers. Obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl are the two-headed monster, except for James. Yeah, you have mentioned Mike Smith before. So sorry, but everyone else as a whole, the hockey world as a whole, Mike Smith is going to be the most important player. I think he's the X factor for this Oilers team. If he can play the way he's been playing, I don't see why the Oilers can't come out of the North Division as champions going into the Final Four. I like this Oilers team a lot. As good as Hellebuck is, I think that the Jets defense isn't that great. And I think the Oilers offense will just overwhelm them. I think they're going to overwhelm Hellebuck and the Jets. I think they're going to win this series. Like I said, I like the way the Oilers are playing. I like the team that they look. And I said, like, as you mentioned, this division is not that strong. So I think that they'll advance, I think, 2 rounds at least, if not more.
I like that. Eric, why is Winnipeg going to beat my Oilers?
Because how can we trust the Oilers? How can we not expect them to do what they've been doing the past few seasons of the McJesus and Draisaitl era, which is lose and not go far. But you got to also look at Winnipeg's goaltending. Hellebuck will stand on his head, 2.58 GAA with a .916 save percentage. Like, if anything is going to help you somehow, some way against McJesus and Draisaitl, it's going to be Hellebuck. I think also they have a better defensive category over the Oilers. They got 2.54 goals against per game, and their power play actually isn't too bad. They're only 9 less power play goals compared to the Oilers. So it's not like they're like way out of this. It's going to be a battle. I actually do really want to see Oilers Leafs though, and like be with you in person to watch those games. Like, so I am hoping for that, but I think it's going to be more of a dogfight of a series than we think.
Yeah. An Edmonton-Toronto series is something that I think everyone's salivating over. I'm salivating over it because you only ever would see this in a Stanley Cup final in a normal year. Look, the Jets really struggled against the Oilers. The Jets did very well against, and Connor Hellebuck in particular did very well against every other team except the Oilers. The Oilers absolutely shredded him with a 3.96 goals against average in those 10 games. They just got absolutely shredded. McDavid had, I don't know if you guys, I know you followed him, and I obviously followed him all season. He had the greatest individual season we've seen in a long time. I mean, he did something that I don't think. Look, if he didn't score a goal, he'd still get second in points this season. Just put it that way. That's absolutely incredible. He is the undoubted. He will get the unanimous MVP. If he doesn't, again, I think that's insane. And I'm not trying to say this as a huge Oilers fan. It's just the truth. I think this is going to be a hard fought battle, though. I don't think Edmonton is out of the woods with Winnipeg, because even though Winnipeg struggled with them this season during the regular season, things can change in the postseason. Things are different. So I'll be honest, I'm scared, but I'm excited to finally see some Oilers playoff games. We didn't really get to see it last year because of the stupid bubble. We lost in that miserably. But guys, that is what I have for the setup for the first round. I know it was a long time, but there's a lot to go over. But it's going to be fun. Buckle up.
Tradon, should we all give our cup picks?
Yeah, I want everyone to give their cup pick. So I have Vegas winning the cup this year. James.
Avs.
Okay. Alex.
I have the Hurricanes beating the Avs.
Okay. Tyler.
I got Vegas beating the Hurricanes.
Love it. That's who I have in the finals there. Eric.
Yeah, I have Vegas beating the Hurricanes also.
Awesome.
In 7 games.
Any 3 of those teams, I think, even you could throw in Tampa. I mean, it's pretty much you could pick any of those 4 teams. You'd be right there. So that is the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yes, a nice meaty segment, a good 45 minutes there spent, but it was much needed. No, it was much needed because it's already started up. And it's good. We're keeping the fans in the loop with everything.